Nobody's been mean to me lately, which in a way is good. Brianna Wu. Do you want me to take a look at the WIC panel? While the game is still going on? I could. WIC TV.
Prime, why is...
We're gonna watch some of it. Where is it? Oh god. Is it here? Is this it? Leftism and anti-Semitism. Is it really a problem? Brianna Wu, counterpoints SDL. Is this it? Is this the panel?
Welcome, 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 one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV, a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious, and today we have a topic for
Where is
you.
Brianna Wu here? What does she have to do with this topic? Oh, everybody has an opinion on Israel now. Everybody, every single person, no matter what their knowledge, their connection to the topic, anything. Everybody has an opinion on it. No matter how well or ill informed. It's getting a bit ridiculous.
So, we're going to be talking about anti-Semitism on the left.
Everybody needs to talk about it. The anti-Semitism on the left.
Is it a real problem? Is it something that is indicative or
hold on.
Based in leftist ideals, like intrinsically? That's the word I'm looking for, intrinsically. Is it intrinsic to
If it's too quiet, tell me and I'll make it a bit louder, but I think it's okay.
Leftism, or is it simply something that's been overblown? It's a cudgel being used by people to bully leftists and distract from the real problems at hand. We're going to talk about it. We've brought together a wonderful group.
WIC, always with the hard-hitting topics. There's a Jewish person on this panel, right? That the discussion about anti-Semitism. There's at least one Jewish person on this, right? Right?
Group of guests.
This panel is the pinnacle of ridiculous. Oh, thank you.
And I want to give them all a chance to introduce themselves, their thoughts on the topic, and then we'll kind of get going. Is Counterpoints coming? We will see. I don't know.
Oh, great, Counterpoints. We felt like we really needed Counterpoints in addition.
May have some issues. I hope he will be here soon.
I hope not.
Either way, the show must go on. And we're
going I really hope not.
We're going to start with Ali the Spurg. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my name is Ali. I think there's less of an anti-Semitic issue. There is obviously anti-Semitism happening within the left. However, I think there's a big conflation between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, and I think those two things need to be separated.
Yes, please do separate them. Thank you. A voice of reason.
Okay,
we might be rooting for this person.
Miss Brianna, please.
Yes, my name is Brianna Wu. I'm executive director at Rebellion PAC.
Yes, we don't care.
To run special projects over at Progressive Victory. And yeah, my point, I think we're gonna have a lot of agreement here tonight. I think
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you for your input.
All of us understand that Israel's foreign policy directionally has been very it's been really destructive and harmful and violent and disproportionate towards the Palestinian people. At the same
Yeah, okay.
time,
Oh.
I'm really seeing a lot of discourse on the left that, in my view, certainly falls into anti-Semitism. And I think we're doing the famous leftist playbook where we go after our own. And I think if we're serious about building a coalition to
Ah, Jesus Christ. Ah, yes, of course. Because for Brianna Wu, everything is about coalition. Going after our own.
provide real pushback against Israel's foreign policy, I think it's really important that we nip this anti-Semitism in the bud.
Excellent. We'll see how it goes. Karl Max, what you got?
Way to say a lot without saying anything, basically.
So I think that there is a lot of issues with how
I don't have to watch, Lucy. Just want to see your reaction. I'm gonna watch it till the end of this match. And then we'll see.
people have spoken about this, but I think that the issues come from the same people that we always see saying the worst shit. It is the usual.
Who is this? Who is... Why doesn't anybody have a name? Who is this person? Who is this?
Kind of tankies. It's the usual suspects, right? And these people, though they've always
don't
been there
know
to
who you
always
are.
say really stupid things, they've never had a real effect because these aren't people who actually take action.
That's Karl Marx? Okay.
And really, what are they going to influence in Palestine? I know that these people are annoying and shitty, but I don't think they're, first of all, mostly, I don't think the leftists are anti-Semitic. I think they're people who want to be radical and they want to LARP, right? And I think the people who are anti-Semitic aren't leftists and are people who are just anti-Semites looking for an excuse to be anti-Semitic, right? So all in all, I think that there are issues, but I think that people are focusing on the wrong ones, and especially giving into Israeli propaganda that any criticism of Israel might actually be rooted in definite anti-Semitism, which is something that I see being accused a lot,
Yes.
even when it's not necessarily accurate.
In fact, aristocracy has thrown out such a claim pretty recently in a panel.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes. Thanks for being here and looking forward to the discussion. Last but not least, at least until Counterpoints arrives, Sock Done Left. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there is some degree of anti-Semitism on the left on downplaying deaths by Jewish people and refusing to condemn that.
Of Jewish people, not by Jewish people. Sock Done Left. You mean downplaying the death of Jewish people?
Simultaneously, I think it's important to recognize that anti-Semitism on the left is something like 5 times less common than it is on the political right, and anti-Semitism on the right has political power. People like Donald Trump are actively calling for the slaughter of Palestinians, and not in terms of anti-Semitism, but just bigotry on the right has institutional power in a way that it does not on the left. I would totally agree with Karl Marx that the types of people who tend to be the most radical, the most like LARPy or whatever, tend to also be the people with the least institutional power. And so, yes, it exists, and yes, it's a problem, but only insofar as any insane beliefs are a problem. Is Possadism and wanting a post-nuclear socialism a problem? Yes, but I don't think anyone should give much of a shit. So,
okay,
fair enough.
It's more important than that. It's bigger than Possadism. But yeah,
Fair enough. Well, I guess I'll stand in for Counterpoints till it gets here, and I'll give
What
my
the
criticism of what I've seen.
Huh?
Okay?
Moderator, hello. Don't stand in for... Oh yeah, I'm just gonna show my bias in all of this for a second there. I'm just gonna stand in for one of the people. I'm just gonna show that I have, zero objectivity in this, and I'm just gonna, jump in and... What? Okay.
I talked to Lonerbox last night, and his position resonated with me.
I see.
It's not so much that I see anti-Semitism coming directly from the left, right? They're not going out and hating Jews, etc. But the problem I do see, and it is I think a problem that is bigger than some on this seem to think, they run cover for it. Anytime we see any kind of anti-Semitic remark by someone in a Palestinian protest or something, when we bring it up, I'm inundated by what I call the butt brigade, right? So what I mean by the butt brigade is when I say, "Oh man, those people pulling down those posters, that's pretty gross." But Israel. But what is the IDF doing in Gaza? But Netanyahu. Like every single time. And I think that this minimizes a very real problem. And while it may not have...
Jesus, so loud. Fix your audio, please, Wick.
These people may not have any institutional power now. We are talking people with millions of followers, millions of sub counts, right? Dwarfing us all, right? Talking about...
Wait, who? Who has like those million subs dwarfing everybody? Name names. Or be quiet. Some streamers have the guts to name names and to call out big streamers. I guess Wick is not one of them.
Settler babies and things like that. How can we say that's not actually an issue and that's not something we...
Gosh, it's so ear-deafening.
Actively should be not just ignoring and...
Don't shout into your mouthpiece. You're blowing up your mic.
Poo-pooing away, but actively going ahead and confronting and fighting against.
Actually very unpleasant to listen to.
I think that's dead on, Wick, and I think...
And I don't like the destinyism of... Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think one of the most basic tenets of morality, like if you go read your Noam Chomsky, is...
And now she's quiet. Because Wick screams into the mic, which makes it unbearable to hear, so I make it quieter. And then Brianna Wu speaks normally, so it makes it also too quiet now.
Yeah, the same moral standards you expect of other people, you hold yourself to, right? So I think if all of us very correctly want to call out racism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia on the right, I think it's really important to have our own house in order. So I fully agree with my other panelists have said, I believe Sostan left, it was you who said it was like 5 times worse on the right. I haven't seen that study. That seems very believable to me.
Study.
I agree with you.
Have a study to provide
as big of a problem,
for this claim.
But that should just mean it's that much easier to denounce. And Wick, to your point, anyone that is talking about this anti-Semitism on the left, like my mentions have been a war zone for days here. And I get attacked with the worst stereotypes telling me that like I'm for Palestinian genocide, with people that will not look and say I've been extremely critical of Israel's foreign policy for literally 15 years on Twitter. There are tons of public statements out there they can find. There's my own statements within the last 2 weeks. And it so instantly becomes so heated that it is an environment where it's very difficult to push back on this stuff. So what I need from my friends on the left, I agree with you. We need a change in foreign policy.
Not sure I'm your friend.
We do need to denounce this tactic Israel is engaged in. That is not going to give them the policy outcome that they want. But we need to be able to call out anti-Semitism on our own side. It's so obvious. It's the most basic requirement of being the thing that you, like having the same standards for yourself you expect of others.
Just to speak briefly to that study that I mentioned.
Okay, so there's a big difference between calling out anti-Semitism. I think this is important to sort of touch upon. And trying to not generalize anti-Semitic messaging by individuals onto whole movements, because that becomes a really big problem as well. When you have a pro-Palestinian march and one person comes with an anti-Semitic transparent, and therefore all Palestinian advocacy becomes now branded as anti-Semitic inherently. You can probably see the problem with that, right? You can probably see the problem here, I suspect.
And I posted it in the like group chat thing. It's Royden and Hirsch.
I'm looking it over now. Yeah.
Go. What's that?
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking it over now. Continue though, please. Just.
All I was saying on
Please do.
specific statements like, quote, Jewish people have too much power in America, it's like 5% of liberals and 40% of conservatives. So when I said 5, you could even say it's 8 times. It's a lot of young, and this is young conservatives too. Older conservatives are less anti-Semitic, but Groypers are unironically the future of a third of the Republican Party. So institutional
Sure.
power again.
I hear you, but do you agree that we need to structurally call this out and get our own house in order? Because if we don't, I really worry we're going to become a version of the Republicans.
I think it should
Isn't
always
this
be
an
okay.
issue?
Go ahead.
Isn't this an issue that we see with every single conflict, though? I mean, if you criticize Israel, you'll get called a Hamas supporter, and if you criticize
Fair.
Hamas, you'll get called like a Zionist. It's just something that will
Fair.
happen, especially with the internet, right? I feel
Yeah.
like we need to find the power in saying this is
I got the
stupid
power.
and just ignoring them and then moving on. I know that sounds like kind of dismissive, but I think that
does.
a lot of I think there's a lot of benefit to ridiculing silly ideas and to just moving away from them, because these people are stupid. I think the best method, the best course of action is to make fun of them, make it clear that these sorts of views are silly, they're over the top, they're
I don't know if
exaggerated,
that works.
they're not worth it. I mean, you see me doing this all the time.
People
right?
always
That's
say
the way
that,
I
but
think
does
you
it
can
work?
effectively make ideas, less popular. And I feel like that's kind of the only real way we have, right? I mean, what else are we gonna do? You can't really like exile these people or something,
I
you
don't
know?
know.
You
Well,
can tell them it's stupid and then kind of move
Yeah,
on.
go ahead.
Let's go Sockdon left, then Woo, and then yeah.
All I wanted to say is that I think the amount of criticism should be roughly proportional to the amount of power. And so, like, Vanguardists do have a decent amount of power. I want to say, when you look at, like, all of YouTube views or something, they represent, like, a fifth of socialist YouTube views, something like that. It's not nothing. They have a lot less power in the real world, even than that. They don't represent even a fifth of, like, the real world socialist movements. They're, like, a tenth. And socialist movements themselves have, like, very little power. So I guess the point to me is, like, I think it's worth calling out and then being like, okay, I've called out this bad belief. I can't change all these people's minds. Saying it over and over isn't going to change their mind. They hate everything I have to say. So I'm going to focus on who's actually doing like the killing of 9,000 people. It's Israel, right? It's the Democratic politicians who are refusing a ceasefire. It's to focus on where the harms are proportionally.
I hear what you're saying. I think I would push back on the idea that we need to mock it as the best thing. I think if you go out there and talk to your Jewish friends right now, they're legitimately hurting, just like your Muslim friends are hurting. I think all of us were probably moved when we saw Hassan crying on Leftovers, or at least I was. But if you go talk to your Jewish friends right now, especially progressive Jewish friends, I've universally found they're in a lot of pain. They feel betrayed. They don't understand how, from their point of view, they've shown up for gay people and trans people, and
That's not okay. That's not the type of hurt that I'm feeling. I'm just gonna say that's stupid.
movement after movement, unionization. It's hard to think of a progressive movement in the United States that has not had a lot of Jewish people there. And they're not seeing their friends stand up for them right now. So I think that mocking is an important tool, but I also think that it's important for non-Jews like me and hopefully the people in the audience to stand up and say, you know what, this doesn't speak for us. We can be critical of Israel's foreign policy, but let's not bring American Jews into this. I think that's actually really important.
Just a real quick.
Butavagan, a WIC panel, yeah, until the game's over, then we're gonna do something else.
Housekeeping thing. Counterpoint's reached out. He isn't going to be able to make it today, unfortunately.
no.
We hope that his situation improves,
Oh,
and that's okay. But I do want to say this.
So tragic. Judaism does not equal Zionism. Exactly.
As well, right? And this is the Sockdon left, just briefly. So we talk about how these ideas don't have institutional power, but we can see the effect that it's having on the left and the division it's causing. on the left, which is going to be a problem coming in to the 2024 elections. Look at the DSA. There's been several high-profile people who have abandoned the DSA recently over the recent comments that has been made by certain chapters and things like that. So to dismiss this as this doesn't have an effect, or this is just kind of like nothing, I don't know that's going to be helpful, right? Like, I think that these people are doing real damage to movements that I think are very important, like free healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. Like that. And we have Mike from PA, Hassan, several other big names, right, telling their people don't vote for Biden, just clearly just anti-electoralism. Like, is that? I don't. It just bothers me that we're just.
Why are you so loud? God, fix your audio. It hurts my ears to listen to you, Wick.
Dismissing this as if it's nothing. I don't know. Maybe it's a.
Well, what I would say to that is most of the people who were anti-electoral before are anti-electoral now. Like the actual shift has been way smaller. Mike was anti-electoral before. Hassan was iffy. I don't actually recall, but he was not like a strong pro-Biden stan. I guess all I was trying to say, like, this has clearly moved people, and I would say it's moved some people in a bad direction. But the effect has been like way smaller. This part of the left was like bad in that respect before, in my view.
I think that's fair. Though I have to say, I did work the 2020 election, and we certainly did take note of Hassan's statement and encouraging his audience to go vote for Biden, and he talked about that. So, there's been a reason that the Democratic Party has done outreach to him, because he does have a voice that matters. But I hear you. I want to, just out of the interest of fairness, though, I do want to go to the other side of this and really acknowledge a point that was made earlier. I forget who made this, but I think it's really valid to say that it is often hard to criticize Israel's foreign policy without feeling like
it's pretty reductive to call it pure foreign policy, because Palestine, Gaza is not exactly a fully autonomous foreign country to frame it as foreign policy, I think.
People are going to accuse you of being anti-Semitic. And I wanted to give a chance for
sort
other
of
people
is,
to
but
voice
sort
their
of.
views on that, because I do think that's a valid issue.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's kind of what the issue is I always ask people, like, what is anti-Semitism, and no one really seems to give me a clear indication. Is it hatred of Jews? Is it destabilizing people, dehumanizing people, whatever it is? If someone says free Palestine from the river to the sea, that's recognized as anti-Semitic. And yet, if we recognize that, like, Israel is free from the river to the sea, that's not anti-Semitism for some reason, even though the Semitic people of Palestine were pushed out and the literal land was removed off a map. So, I mean, like, I don't get how one is anti-Semitic, one isn't. And I think the big conflation, the issue is the fact that people are anti-Zionist, and while they're anti-Zionist, it gets referred to as anti-Semitic. And I don't think that's fair at all.
I think that, from my point of view, I think theoretically you could have someone that does not want Israel to exist that is not anti-Semitic. I think, though, in practice, it's so functionally disrespectful to such a large number of people that,
What about if you're Jewish and you don't think that Israel should exist? Brianna, you do know that anti-Zionist Jewish people exist? Yes?
There is, if you look at the history of how this region was shaped and, why Israel, like, was basically...
I do not believe you know this history, by the way.
Established. I mean, if you look at the history of this region,
I don't believe
I do think most American Jews believe Israel should exist. I'm not Jewish. I think it should exist. So
yeah,
I agree with you. It's theoretically possible. It's just, it's so frequently linked with anti-Semitism that I think a lot of people make that conclusion.
So
game's almost over.
My issue is that the way it was formed, if you want to, like, really sit back and think about it, it was like the Jews were exiled by the Romans and then dispersed through the lands, and then the Holocaust happens, and so now the way I'm seeing it is the Palestinians are now being dehumanized and displaced through the lands, and the only thing left to come would be like a Holocaust for us to feel bad for them and be like they deserve the land. So I mean, like, yes, although I can understand why American Jews believe that like Israel should be a thing, I'm not saying that like the Jewish people shouldn't have a home place, but to displace another group of people for a home place, and then anytime someone says anything negative about that displacement is like it gets referred to as anti-Semitic, when the actual people of the land, the Palestinians, are the Semites who are being displaced. So how's that not?
People just don't want it to be an ethno state.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, like, sorry.
No, it's fine. But I'm gonna again channel my counterpoints energy today since
God.
he's with us in Spirit Gang. And
Okay, we're gonna listen to this Wick thing and then we're gonna move on from this. I don't think there's anything of value here.
Possess my body for the moment.
Amazing.
Okay.
So true.
That's absolutely fair, but we have to take context into consideration here. When on the day after.
Do you know the context, Wick? Like, oh my God, just I doubt it. Everybody pretends to have the context. Everybody pretends to have some knowledge that nobody else does. I am, after all, the nuanced person in here with the context, but nobody else is.
The Hamas attacks. People are chanting, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free."
right.
The day after, they're saying, "Intifada, Intifada. We want an Intifada from Britain to Gaza," right? What am I supposed to take out of that, right?
So, although I don't agree with that, I don't agree with the celebration. Do you not understand it?
I can understand, but
Okay, that's
that under.
We're done. We're done with the panel. Thank you. If you've enjoyed this, I don't know how long this took us, but if you've enjoyed it, then nice. I'm happy that you've enjoyed it. We can now move on. We're gonna play a game. Your favorite part of my streams.